If you ever sat down to improvise and realized that you don't know what you're going to play next, and that you're just running scales and repeating what you already know, then you're not alone. The difference between the players who sound intentional and expressive and those who sound random is not talent, it's vocabulary. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your own guitar lick library in a way that actually sticks, works across the entire neck, and shows up naturally in your improvisation. First, transcribe a lick that you like. Pick a lick that you truly like, something that really excites you. For me, that was a lick by the band Chon. They have this song called Fluffy, and in it there's this one part that goes like this. And that final part, those last few notes, really resonated with me for some reason. It stayed with me and I just loved how it sounded. So that's the lick I picked, and one of the licks that I've most gotten a lot of use out of. And I'll be using it as the prime example in this video to demonstrate the points that I'll be making. So once you've chosen the lick that you want to use, you're going to want to learn it slowly first. Learn it inside and out, learn the articulations, learn how to play it smoothly and really internalize it. And once you have it down slowly, you're going to want to gradually build up the speed on that and bring it up to tempo. It's really important that you practice a lot so you really build up that muscle memory and you don't really have to think about it. Practice the lick until you don't have to think about it anymore. But just learning the lick is not enough. And this is where most players stop. They usually just learn the lick, leave it there, and they might take it out again 1 or 2 times to remember how it sounded. But to really turn it into part of your guitar vocabulary, you're going to want to do this next thing. Learn to play it across the 5 positions of the case system. Yes, that case system. And the reason why is because you don't want to see the lick in just one part of the neck. You want to see it across the entire neck. And the case system allows us to do that. And not just that, but using the case system, we can identify and understand the chord scale relationship that lick has with the chord that's sounding underneath, or any other chord for that matter. In other words, you're going to not just want to learn the lick, but learn it across the 5 positions of the case system, and on top of that, understand the underlying harmony relating to that lick. So tie the lick to its related harmony in every position. Using that Chon lick, for example, this one right here. When that lick is going on in the song, the underlying chord that's going beneath it is this one. That's a B major 7. And if I connect that to its caged region, then it's going to be in the E region. That'll be this. But if we dive deeper into the harmony, we see that B major chord is actually the 4th degree of this tonality. So really we're talking about this position. So if we tie it back into the chord that's actually sounding in the song, to B major 7, this lick starts on the 9th of that B major 7. That's kind of why it sounds so pretty. Then it goes to the tonic, then to the 7th note, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 5th, and 3rd. So it's a very colorful lick, and that's why I love it so much. It sounds so beautiful, and it's really what separates Chon from the rest. But going back to the lick and how it relates to the harmony, now that we know that, we can also tie it back into other chords in that tonality, in this case in G flat major. So if we were to play that on top of the one chord in this tonality, that would be G flat major. If we do that, then suddenly what was once a 9th over here in relation to the B major 7 is now a 5th. Hopefully you're starting to see how we can find more possibilities for that one lick. And on top of that, like I said earlier, we can look at that lick across all the 5 positions of the case system. So if we're in G flat major and we have the C position of G flat major, which is right here, and we know that this lick is right here in this position, then finding it in the other regions is a matter of changing the octave. So for example, let's look at that in the D region, which is over here. That lick starts on this note, which is D flat. If we go down an octave, we have it right here. Now if we were to find that lick in this region, we have it right here. And if we take it down one octave more, we kind of hit a wall there, but we can still find the lick in that other region, which is the E region of G flat. It all stems from the fact that we know how the lick relates to the underlying harmony. Because if we're tying it back to the one chord, in this case G flat major, that lick will start on the 5th of G flat major, D flat. So let's find it in the other positions. That's how it looks on the E region. Then let's see it on the D region. Then again the C region. Now in the A region. And then finally in the G region over here. And now finding the lick in all the 5 positions, we've successfully translated the lick into every part of the neck and tied it back to the underlying harmony, which is what we want. And through that, you'll also be able to see how it moves vertically across the neck, not just horizontally. However, this method is still missing one crucial piece of the puzzle for you to really get the best out of that one lick, which is the fact that you're going to want to practice that lick across the circle of fourths. Because what good is the use of a lick if you can't use it in any tonality, right? Now, what we talked about earlier about seeing that lick and tying it back to a chord really helps with this, but you still need to practice it across all the keys. And the best way to do that is using the circle of fourths, because you're taking advantage of the fact that one of the most used cadences in music uses a fourth. In other words, the perfect cadence. For example, if we're looking at that lick over here at the bottom of the neck, where I was talking about earlier, where it kind of gets cut off. If you were to look at that a fourth above, that will be over here in F sharp. And then another fourth above, we have it here in B. And then over here in E natural. Then in G major. And then C major over here. Then F. Then B flat, and so on and so forth. And this again is going to reinforce that relationship to the harmony, to the chord, the underlying chords beneath it, which will make it actually useful when you're using it in real life in your improvisations. That's how you can suddenly just use it without thinking about it. So you might want to start down the neck and then move your way up to the neck gradually as you practice, and vice versa, starting down the neck and then moving up, going lower in register as you go up the neck. And very important, like I was just doing now, practice it vertically, not just horizontally. So when you have to change to the next note in the circle of fourths, don't just move like this. Find it right here without moving from region, as much as you can at least. Now that's the theory behind it, but here's what you need to really pull this off. You need to practice using the lick while improvising in real musical situations. That's really the key here, and that's what'll really lock it into place. Practice the lick starting on different measures and beat. Maybe start that lick on the 1 beat, then try on the 3 beat, then on the 4 beat. How would that sound? Because when you're improvising, you never know where exactly you'll land on the beat when you want to use that lick. So it's super important for you to practice that. Another great thing that you can do whenever you have a lick learned is to practice extending the lick. Maybe adding notes or using octaves to your advantage to be able to extend that and turn a short lick into a long thought. So for example, using that lick, that one lick from Chan, over time I realized that I could add notes to that. So for example, I started adding one note, which would be this one. And this was great because suddenly I had a sort of trampoline to go back to the lick, and it was really easy to loop it from there. So where it was just like this before, now I added one note, and looping that would sound really cool. Instead of just doing, which sounds very square, adding that one note gives it a bit of spice and variety, rhythmic variety. And that'll sound like this. because the original lick is 8 notes and I've added a single note there. Now it's 9 notes. So every time it loops, it creates a bit of rhythmic tension. That makes it instantly much more interesting to the ear. And on top of that, I saw where it was on the scale and I realized that I could also take that idea and extend it into the rest of the scale. For example, by identifying the intervallic jumps and the direction that the lick goes in, I can identify that pattern and use it in other parts of the scale. So if we had that lick over there, then I could also play over here. Or apply the same core idea of going up, then going down an arpeggio. Because this basically goes down the notes, up the notes, and it goes here, and goes down the arpeggio. The minor arpeggio over here. But then going down this note, I can go down a third, then go up the scale onto here, and then go down another minor arpeggio in thirds. And that now sounds like this. What was once a simple lick has now evolved into a much longer musical thought. And I can kind of loop it back endlessly because I can also go up the scale when I arrive down here. So for example, the idea here is that you really want to stretch that lick to its absolute limits. Use it also in different progressions. So that lick, again, it's used originally on top of the B major 7 over here. But you can also use it on top of A flat minor 7 and it gives it a completely different sound. And again, you can use it on top of G flat major too. You can even use it on top of E flat minor if you want to. Maybe even make a riff with that. Again, I'm using the same lick. So hopefully you see just how much mileage you can get out of one simple lick. But now, how do we future-proof this system? How do we turn it into a real lick library? Well, the idea here is that you rinse and repeat this whole process for every lick that you like. Ideally, don't just leave it at one lick. You're going to want to apply the system for every lick that you enjoy out there. And just like learning other songs and taking inspiration from that, eventually it'll turn into a huge lick library which composes your unique style, which is the amalgamation and combination of all of your influences, not just one artist or the other or one lick or the other. And don't be afraid to use a lick that's from one style in another completely related style. That lick that I've been talking about in this whole video is from a progressive rock song from Chon, but I've used it while jamming on jazz and bossa nova and a whole series of completely unrelated styles. Every time I've used it, it's been equally as useful and fun. So do this for every lick moving forward and you'll really start to see a real compounding effect with your playing and your sound. Because what starts as inspiration will eventually evolve into your own musical personality. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you enjoy this process, and that you do it every time you hear a lick that you just cannot get out of your head or that really impacts you. Take it through everything that we talk about in this video. Pass it through that filter and you'll learn a lot from doing that. So building your own guitar lick library is not about memorizing hundreds of random phrases. It's about learning licks deeply, connecting them across the entire fretboard, understanding the underlying harmony behind them, and actually using them in real musical situations. If you do this over time with every lick that you love, you won't just be copying other artists. You'll start sounding like yourself. And that's the goal. Now, if you want to go deeper with this and you want to start seeing all these scales, arpeggios, and all this harmony clearly across the entire neck, I've put together a free PDF guide for you called 3 Steps to Fretboard Mastery. And in it, you'll see how every scale, chord, pattern, and arpeggio connects all across the neck. And that's exactly what you need to make the best out of the concept that we've talked about today. So if that interests you at all, you can grab it at the link down below. But now I'm curious. Drop a comment and let me know. What's the first lick that you're going to use this system on? I'd love to know. And until next time, keep practicing.